Are you looking for inspiration, peace, and a deeper connection with your soul? If you're ready to investigate your higher truth, take a deeper look inside, and discover a better way to live, stay tuned for Higher Soul Living, where we ignite your divine intelligence for life. With me, Reverend Christine Hart-Savage. I experienced a profound spiritual awakening that was so life-changing. It took me into a 30-year career as a metaphysical life coach and breathwork expert. I've mentored thousands of people through their personal challenges, anxiety, self-doubt, and search for meaning. Higher Soul Living is about choosing to live the higher way. It's about taking conscious ownership and drawing spiritual intelligence into your everyday life. Join me on a search for higher truth to find hope, connection, and happiness. The Higher Soul Living Show starts now. Good morning, everybody. This is Reverend Christine. We're off to a bit of a late start this morning. We have got a new login link, and that was a bit of a, what do we call it? I don't want to call it a problem, a bit of a dance this morning. So anyway, we're up and away. Not that anyone listening to a recording will know that. But this morning, we are going to speak about the soul's dimmer switch. So are you dimming your light to fit in to your life or other people's expectations? And I think this is a really valid point that a lot of us do. We're always seeming to be following the rules of life because from the time we've been born to now, we have had rules to follow. But my belief is that the soul has its own journey. It has its own reason for being here, which is always a fulfilling and exciting thing. But when we look at our lives, we don't really see that, do we? There's been a lot of struggle, a lot of trouble in our lives, maybe some chaos, challenges, fears come up, all sorts of things. So today I'd like to really unpack this a bit about the light. So this really connects our spiritual journey here on earth. And I think it really is a spiritual journey. You know, it's not separate to the human, but we're all on a spiritual journey. So do you ever feel like you have to dim your light so that you fit in with other people in your life? And why do we do this? And why do we expect other people to do this? So we're sort of a victim and a bit of a culprit here as well. So how do we start changing this energy? It actually sucks our life force. It's an energy sucking pattern when we start to dim the light of our soul. So how do we start honoring our souls and aligning with our higher truth? And I love this topic because it's been quite challenging in my life, and the clients that I've worked with over the last 30 years, it's been challenging in their lives as well. And I think a lot of the stronger issues that we face in life come from us actually dimming our light, dimming our soul, our energy. And I'd also say, not that I want today's topic to be really on sensitivity, but a lot of the people that are more affected by this, I've found clinically with clients over all these years, is the ones that are really sensitive. So they're empathic. They can feel things much more deeply than most people. So it does tend to affect all people. I think we all shut our souls down in some way in this 3D life on planet Earth, and the sensitives seem to do it a lot more. And that's certainly been my background as well. So I'm going to tell you a little bit of a story about a young man who came to see me this week. And I have not seen Alan for 9 years. So he came to see me because he was suffering from terrible anxiety back in the day. And he got himself really well. So he left clinically and went off and lived his life. And he said he felt fantastic, really in touch with himself, knew how to rebalance himself from the inside out when he was suffering with anxiety. So, moving forward, he came into the clinic earlier this week and he sat there and told me his story. Now, it's a really interesting story because he's a what I would call a sensitive and he feels things profoundly, like a lot of sensitives do, even more than perhaps they're speaking to somebody. And this was my background too, where they're speaking words to you, but you can feel that their feelings are different to what their words are saying. So there's a real gap there. And it's really difficult to know whether you trust what they're saying or whether you trust the feeling that you're picking up from them. So he's been in that situation. And what he did, he wanted to grow more spiritually. So he was asked by a friend to join a particular group. I don't know the name of the group, and I probably wouldn't say anyway. Anyway, he started going to this group and he said, my goodness, the things they were doing were really powerful. They were really using energy. And he knows that I'm really into energy because our lives run on soul energy. That's I just got a little insight then. Solar energy from the sun. It's like what we put on our roofs. So we have that internally. So we run on this soul energy. And he said these people in the group were doing these amazing things with energy and healing, or what he thought was healing. And he started to notice some things that he thought were quite heavy and dark. And every time he would leave that group, he felt heavy in himself. And in the end, he thought, oh, I'm just not trying hard enough. I'll just surrender more, give more, do more, because they know a lot more than I do. And so he was really allowing this work to be done on him and really surrendering to it and trusting it. And this heaviness and this feeling like something was contracting in his body and clinging to him became heavier and heavier and worse and worse. And he said he finally left the group and he's been trying to clear this energy from himself for a long time. And he'd been using some of the skills that I taught him 9 years ago. Anyway, he said, you kept coming up on my Facebook feed. I mean, I don't even really do much Facebook at all. I'm not much into the media in that way. My era, I think. And then he heard my name. So he said, I had to come and see you. So he told me that story about where he was. So we set up a plan in clinic that day to actually clear his energy, which we did before he left. And his nervous system was sparking this beautiful white energy all through it. And he felt fantastic. And he sent me a couple of texts the next day saying he hasn't felt like that for years and he was feeling really good. So that's great. However, we talked about his passions, like what it was that he was actually looking for. What is it in his soul that was drawing him to do a particular thing in life? Because we all have one. Even if you look at your life now, there's something in you that is drawing you to something, to some activity, some study, something that really draws your soul. And it can be a double-edged sword because that very thing that you're drawn to can sometimes bring up fear, a real fear inside you, because we have shut down our soul as we go through life. So anyway, I was talking to Alan and he was saying, I said, what's your passion? And he said, oh, music. And I've never known that. I didn't know that he loved music and that he was a musician. He played the guitar, he plays the guitar, and he likes to sing. And I said to him, well, why aren't you doing that? And he said, because I doubt myself and I have fear. And it can't be my job, it can't be my career. It's just something I like to do. When he sings and he plays the guitar, he feels good. He feels free. And I said to him, well, isn't there a possibility that you could actually do that if your soul's in that? And he said no, he didn't think that he could do that as a career path. And I said, have you ever thought about writing songs? And he said, well, actually, I have written. I've written a lot about what I went through with this group. And he said he had enough to actually put an album together. And I said to him, that's fantastic. And he said, really? I just don't have the confidence. And I said, well, why don't you start singing and playing for other people more and actually look at getting this recorded and doing an album? So by the time he left, he was really feeling very good about this, a lot more confident, even though he had fear. He was looking at playing his guitar, singing these songs, and putting an album together. And I said to him, and it's the same with all of us, not only is it about following our soul's passion, our soul knows exactly what we're here to do. It knows what floats our boat. It knows what brings us fulfillment, happiness, joy. When we're doing something that our soul loves, we feel really, really free. We just feel good. We feel happy. We feel joyous. So what is it that makes us not do that thing? And I think it's listening to other people in our lives. I really do. From the time we've been born, we've been conditioned to learn a certain way. We've been taught what to learn. And sometimes we've been taught how to learn, which is better. But we haven't really been asked by our parents and the people around us. And I think it's getting better in schools now, some schools anyway, about what it is that we really love. And then maybe opening that up and showing us the steps to start achieving that and to learn the skills that we need to learn to do those things. So it is changing. But somewhere along the line, we have lost our light. We've become more dimmed. And as life goes on, what happens for everybody is that we end up at a crossroad or a crisis point somewhere in our journey. We end up in a state of angst or anxiety and overwhelm, maybe depression, self-doubt, and often breakdown. And we get into that point of confusion and emptiness in our daily struggle. And finally, we recognize we're not living the life we want to live. And it's a bit of a conundrum, really, because we're doing the things that we've been taught to do. And then there's a part of us inside that just becomes so dissatisfied with life. And the soul is calling us to do that thing that it knows is going to bring us joy, to do that thing that we love that actually lifts our personal vibration. It lifts us to a higher frequency. And the other interesting thing about this is then that joy radiates out to life and affects other people. That's when we become aligned with our soul. So when we have that real crossroad time in our life and we're struggling with things and we're questioning life and we're questioning ourselves and our journey, we're out of alignment with our soul. We're not happy. And we're actually at odds with our personal values. And very often, we don't feel like we fit in. You just don't fit in. And that is because we have dimmed the light of the soul so much. And we put trust in other people more than ourselves. We start to doubt ourselves. We don't know what we really believe. We know what's been pulling us, but do we trust that? No. And we don't want to hurt others, so we don't speak out. We achieve things perhaps, but we dim those achievements often so other people aren't affected by our achievements. We dim our light so that we don't look selfish if we want to say something, and you squash those words back down inside you because you don't want to look silly or you don't want to look selfish and constantly doubting yourself, we follow the path that we've been told to follow. We really do. And every time we turn that dimmer switch more and we dim our light more, we move further and further away from the soul. Every time you do that, you move further away from your soul. And when we do that, of course, we're going to feel much more disconnected and empty. And often, I think this is where addiction comes from too, because we start to want to fill that emptiness with something because it's so uncomfortable. So we turn to perhaps people that we shouldn't turn to. We get into relationships that perhaps don't serve us, let's put it that way. And we're not valued. We put energy into work, so we're just constantly doing something. We put energy into addictions, shopping, drugs, Netflix, all sorts of things. So we try and fill that emptiness. And guess what? We can never fill it. We cannot fill it with external things, people, jobs, substances, shoes. We can't do that. We can't fill it that way. So when it gets bad enough and we get to that point of breakdown, and hopefully we don't all have to do that, if we wake up earlier, we can correct our direction and turn that dimmer switch up again before we get to these places of breakdown or stress or struggle, chaos in our lives. But to do that, we have to look within. So when we start really looking within, and we can find eventually, because at first when you look within, you're going to see how very busy your mind is and your feelings are internally. But if you start doing some practices like breath work, meditation, those types of things, and get yourself settled, you will have pockets of stillness, pockets of peace. Even if they're fleeting at first, then they start to expand. That harmony starts to come in, more peace, and your channel to your soul starts to open up. It's freer. When we're not busy inside, when we're at a point of stillness and a point of peace, the energy from your soul flows in. That dimmer switch becomes light again. You turn it up and your soul starts to shine through you again, much more brightly. So we must sit in stillness and silence. And we have to enter our own emptiness and distress, which is not very comfortable. But if you sit in that stillness, that emptiness, that stress or distress that we get ourselves into, self-doubt, all of those things start to bubble up and go to the light, which is very high frequency, and it starts to dissolve those issues, to heal us on so many levels. And the other thing that's really great here is that purpose that is embedded in your soul starts to surface again. Even if there's fear all around it. When my client Alan left earlier in the week, he was buzzing, but he still had fear that he will have to deal with about stepping into his purpose or his soul's purpose. And I think that's an important point. It doesn't mean that all of your fears just suddenly disappear, but they become less and you handle them better. And your soul purpose becomes stronger. It's a stronger force drawing you towards that thing, that joy. It's been the same with me with speaking. It's one of my biggest fears in life. And I know I've spoken about this on a couple of occasions, but it was like I would have rather died than to speak, because we just didn't speak growing up. We didn't speak. It wasn't the thing to do. There were so many things in my teenage years that I wanted to say and express, And I didn't because I didn't know how, and the feel was too much. And it's the same with most of us. There is always something that we are being drawn to do, but we're too scared to do it. Now, that drawing feeling is definitely your soul. Your light is drawing you to that for a purpose. And if you follow that, you can't go wrong. I'm not saying there won't be little blocks along the way, but you'll work around those. You really will. But that pulling is your soul talking to you in its language, in its soul language. It's a feeling. It really is a feeling. I have so many people that say, I don't know my journey. I don't know why I'm here. I don't know what I'm supposed to do because they've turned down unknowingly. We do this unknowingly. Turn down the light. The dimmer switch has turned down that soul light all through their lives to the point where there's darkness and they don't know why they're here. But they also know that there is something going on in there, something that makes them look inside or get some help, which is great. We all need help at some point or direction to get back on track. So the soul really does have this strong magnetic pull. And what it's doing, that, because the soul is magnetic, it's actually really magnetic. Light is a magnet. And it's drawing us. Your soul is magnetic. It's drawing you to it. And when we're on track, that's how the law of attraction works. When we're on track and our soul energy is stronger in our body, we start to attract in our light pulls particular events and people and situations into our life because our light is stronger. We're magnetically pulling in what serves us more in life. And on the other end of the scale, we also attract in the same way to our pollution, our unresolved issues. We keep drawing people and situations in that mirror that as well. But back to the soul, when we can turn up that soul light, life changes. It really changes. Like my client Alan, he just wanted to sing and tell his story through songs. And doing this makes his soul sing. And it feeds him energy and it feeds him joy. But the other thing that I went through with him, I wanted to tip these teachings on their head a little bit. So to help him move ahead more freely. And this is what I did for myself and many clients. And this is why I'm mentioning this to you now. So the soul teachings that I work with, I like to flip it this way as well, because I do believe this is very true. So when we tip the teaching on its head for a different perspective, it helps us see that we actually have soul agreements and purpose in our life. And I'd like to share this with you with the time we have left, because it may open up something for you too. So I explained to him that the soul has an agreement. He has an agreement with himself at the soul level, if you like, to step onto his soul pathway, which for him, it sounds like it is writing songs, singing, and being in joy. So he's feeling that pull. It's very strong. We can't shut it off completely because it always comes back. And that's how you know it's your soul's purpose, because your soul is always drawing you to it. So I explained to him that he made an agreement with his soul. He has agreements also with other souls. So they can't do their healing. They can't shine their light brighter if he doesn't deliver his part of the agreement and share his songs with them. Because his songs, because that's his soul's journey, his songs will carry a high frequency. And that frequency will broadcast. And the people that need to hear that for their soul's journey, it will unlock their soul development and their agreements on their journey. So really, it's selfish for us not to share our soul's light. It's selfish to not do that. And it's the very thing that brings us joy. And if we really step into it, we help other people. It reaches out. That energy permeates other people. It sprays out to life. And the people with that soul contract and that agreement will actually find it because it's frequency and they're attuned to it. And then something will shift in them and that will help them on their soul's journey. So I said to him, it's his responsibility and his honor to action his soul's agreement. And it's the same for all of us. It is our duty to step into the joy of our soul, to find our purpose, to do what brings us joy, even if it's growing and not an if we love growing vegetables in the garden and we love the color and it brings us joy, and then you give those vegetables to somebody else and it brings them joy, we're unlocking people's soul, the light in their soul constantly when we're giving from that soul level. So it's a really wonderful thing to understand. So bring yourself some joy. It's a matter of listening to your soul and turning up its light, its brightness. Just keep turning it up. Even when you don't really understand what's going on, listen to yourself and start to think about what it is you love to do. If you love to dance, go and dance. I'm dancing after I finish the podcast today because I love to do Zumba. So I'll be going off to dancing. But if you have an interest, and I just want to say, I'm actually putting this group together to take people through this type of soul development. So if you have an interest in soul development, you can register on my website under How to Give a Shift Soul Development Program, or the Heart of Metaphysics program. So it doesn't matter. They're both certificate programs, and it doesn't matter which one you register with. I will still get that registration. And so my website is, I can never remember my website. Isn't it terrible? Soul Life Connection, SOUL Life Connection. soulLifeConnection.com, and you can register there. So I'll be starting that group up. I've taught this for years, so I'm going to do a smallish online group and take people through development of their soul. So my closing message today, because we're always running out of time, it's life, isn't it? Life's waiting for you to honor your soul's agreements. So when you finally shine your light and turn up that dimmer switch, you honor yourself and your soul agreement, and you support and honor other people's souls. You honor your agreement with a lot of other souls that you don't even know. And they're waiting for you to shine your light so they can shine theirs. It's your duty, it's your right, it's your joy to shine your light. We're all connected by the light of our souls. We all affect each other. So let's all turn our dimmer switch back on full radiance and start shining really, really brightly. Many blessings to you, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you for tuning in to Higher Soul Living, where you'll ignite your divine intelligence for life with me, Reverend Christine Hart-Savage. Join me every second and fourth Thursday at 3 p.m. Pacific on Transformation Talk Radio for more information and stories that inspire hope, possibilities, and a greater understanding of who you are at a higher soul level. Together we deepen the connection between the spiritual and the physical aspects of your being and align to your soul's innate intelligence. Metaphysics and the higher soul's journey are my greatest joy. I invite you to join our Facebook community, Soul Life Connection Group, and to visit my website, SoulLifeConnection.com, for more information about me, my programs, my coaching, and to tap into your higher soul's intelligence. I hope to see you next time.